the Chinese government crossed out the word direct and district. So the joint declaration only says the legislature should be constituted by elections.
Hi everyone, I'm Nixie Lam here, your host for the DAB Talkbox series. Today we're going to talk about the improvement on the election reform. So we have a lot of concerns around town regarding to the reform. So can you share about some of the important elements of this reform?
I'll try.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, what happened between 2019 and 2020? And we have what some described as a failed color revolution. We had terrorist activities here, we have riots, and we had Chinese national flag being burnt, and we have the UK and the US national flags flying around Hong Kong. And what exactly happened is that ever since our reversion to the motherland's sovereignty, we have not had enactment of national security laws as prescribed by Article 23 of the Basic Law. So in any other country, say in UK, you would pledge allegiance to the Queen, the monarch. And if you should commit treason, you would be disqualified as an MP. In the States, you have to uphold your constitution, and if you should work in collusion with an enemy of the state, you would be disqualified as members of parliament, or, whether it's House of Representatives or otherwise. So exactly what's happening now is that after 23 years of not having a national security law, the central government through the National People's Congress Standing Committee has enacted one for Hong Kong. On top of that, there was a decision prescribing the rules as to the Pledge of Allegiance and upholding of the Hong Kong Basic Law for all the officers in our public service, which includes the government, the judiciary, and definitely the legislature. So there's one thing missing is in our electoral system, there is no inbuilt process in which you can ensure that those who are going to run for election or serving the Legislative Council would be truthful to their oath of allegiance and support of the Basic Law. So this particular reform is to make sure that Hong Kong will be governed mainly by patriots. And patriots, it's got a very wide definition. Anybody who respects your own ethnic origin and the exercise of sovereignty over Hong Kong by the motherland, and not doing any harm to Hong Kong or the motherland, you would be a patriot. So I should think out of 7.25 million people in Hong Kong, at least 7.1 will be patriots. It's not a very harsh requirement. We just want to be on par with, say, the United Kingdom or the States to make sure that within our electoral system, we have people, when they pledge allegiance, they mean it and they keep to it. That's the whole idea behind the reform.
Right. Horace, what do you think about this reform this time? A lot of people having questions about people's freedom is going to be cut off. So what's your feelings on that?
Actually, I think at that time, the improving of the electoral system is because Hong Kong is not on the right track. As you can see from the last couple of years, the legislators in the council, they can seek Hong Kong independence in the chamber of the Legislative Council. I think
the flags and
everything.
It's
quite strange to other countries. You can see the lawmakers, they can come together and say that when they have the majority in the council, they will exercise their power to veto all major bills of the government, and just for one purpose, to let the chief executive to step down. They and just want to overturn the sovereignty. That is actually move away from the fundamental principle of one country, two systems. So at that time, I think we did not have option we can only do what we can do is to improve our election system to make sure that we do not have such kind of loophole, and to make sure that the Hong Kong is under the governance of the Patriots Administering Hong Kong. That is the main objective and goal of this reform package. And I think that is quite critical for Hong Kong to move ahead.
Maria, there's a lot of people mention about the Sino-British Joint Declaration. Often we heard about the China actually bleached the rights of it, doesn't listen to it, change the whole game and everything. What do you think?
Well, as it happened, I was involved on the side during this discussion on the future of Hong Kong in writing, not personally writing, just giving some advice from the Hong Kong side, the Joint Declaration. And it is very clear that when the United Kingdom signed the International Covenant on National and Political Rights, they made a reservation to Article 22B of the Convention, which gives anybody, any place, universal suffrage. So UK reserved that, meaning Hong Kong will not have universal suffrage. And they, at the point they hand over Hong Kong back to China, they have not withdrawn the reservation, which means that up till the point they hand over Hong Kong, they say Hong Kong will have no universal suffrage. So universal suffrage is something, when we wrote the basic law, I was in the drafting committee. We hope that we can get it, and the motherland says no problem, we'll give it to you. So we write it in Article 45 of the basic law, which says ultimately the chief executive will be elected by universal suffrage through the nomination by a broad-based nomination committee. And then in Article 68 of the basic law, it says very clearly that ultimately the whole of the legislature will be elected through universal suffrage. So universal suffrage has got nothing to do with the Joint Declaration, nothing to do with the UK government, and it's strictly a matter between the central government and Hong Kong. So that statement is totally misleading. There's another story which I'm able to tell because it's already written down in Sir S.Y. Cheung's memoir.
Right.
During the negotiation in respect of how the SAR political system would be framed, the proposal from the British side was that the chief executive shall be sort of produced or delivered through either consultation or election. It doesn't say how. When it comes to the legislature, the UK proposal is that the whole legislature should be elected through direct election. So the telex came through and it says the legislature shall be constituted by direct district elections. The Chinese government crossed out the word direct and district. So the Joint Declaration only says the legislature should be constituted by elections. And the word election in English has got an S, meaning that it's not just one type.
So it's a different
You could have a
forms
mixture. You can have a House of Lords in Hong Kong. There's nothing in doing that in contravention of the Joint Declaration. So the other statement is also wrong.
Why do you think they always try to twist things like that?
That is English style. That's the way they're doing politics.
Right.
All this is in black and white.
Well, it's quite unfortunate that a lot of people actually believed in the situation and hence like all the chaos that's been happening in Hong Kong. So back to the election reform this time. The electoral reform, where the representative, the vetting committee and things like that. There's a lot of changes. Can you highlight some of the changes and why is it important?
Okay, you mentioned about a vetting committee?
Yes.
All right. The vetting committee is to make sure that whoever is going to join the election, at least from what we understand the situation, are likely to keep to the Pledge of Allegiance and upholding the basic law. If in UK you swear allegiance to the monarch, okay, as I said, you could be disqualified, you commit treason. So likewise, we have the same mechanism here, and the vetting committee is to make sure that this guy is not a national security risk. That's mainly what it is. And he's not going to do harm to Hong Kong or China. And then you have an electoral college comprising of 5 different sections of 300 persons each from all sectors of the Hong Kong community. So this 1,500 wise men is going to nominate the chief executive candidates and vote on it. And 40 seats from the Legco will be nominated by this electoral college, and they can vote on it. The remaining 50 seats in the legislature, this committee will have the right of nomination. And the idea is to make it systematic and legalize the concept of patriots in the mainstream governing Hong Kong.
So a lot of people actually mention about the proportion 40, 30 and 20. Why did direct election shrink down to 20? And a lot of people were saying, well, we lost our freedom there. Why don't we just do appointments? Why do we still have to go through all the elections? What's your feelings?
But you can see from the electoral committee, actually it represents a wide range of spectrum in Hong Kong. It represents the commercial sector, the professional sector, and the grassroots level. So actually, it covers a lot of Hong Kong people. And the other point is that actually the electoral sector, they look at the policy, not only from the Hong Kong perspective. They also look at the problem from the nationwide perspective and international perspective. I think that is quite important for Hong Kong if we really want to maintain as a financial international sector. So I truly believe that the electoral reform can let us have a much more stable, more outstanding members that can try to monitor the governing of the Hong Kong government and to put forward much more, I would say, better policy. So I would say that is a quite important reform for Hong Kong if we want to move on the right track.
Right.
Yeah.
As a legislator, do you think we have enough time to do all this within this year?
We really have a very, very tight schedule. The government will put forward the bill in middle of this month, and then we may have 1.5 months to scrutinize the bill and have the third reading of the bill by early June. And then the government will have 2 to 3 months time to prepare for the coming 3 elections that come consecutively. It's a quite tight schedule, but we have the confidence that we can do it within one year time.
Right. You have to do a lot of overtimes and
No lunch.
Yeah,
no lunch,
lunch.
no dinner, everything. You have to camp at the legislature.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a very interesting sessions of the DAB. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to leave your message and always contact us for your views. I think we're very happy to answer any of them, polite ones. And thank you for your time and thank you for our guests.
Thank you.
Thank you.